Businesses tend to focus on revenue, profits, and getting loyal customers. But how about healthy workplace culture? You're listening to How I Turned the Corner, where Kendra Prospero leads eye-opening conversations that most business leaders avoid. The right way to address employee challenges. Listen to real-life stories of workplace struggles, giving you valuable advice on what must be done to make every employee truly satisfied and fulfilled in their job. This is for leaders who want to create great company cultures and for employees who want to do something to put an end to suffering at work in the most practical ways possible. Here's your host, Kendra.
Today's guest has a mantra that I believe all of us entrepreneurs and founders can benefit from and should adopt. Greg Greenwood has a philosophy and a mantra of how can I serve? And he has served so many entrepreneurs and founders over the years with his incredible business acumen, his kind spirit, and his gentle way. I was one of those recipients back in 2017. I'd had a terrible tragedy and my business was on the point of bankruptcy. Now, at the time, Greg and I were strangers. And even as a stranger, he reached out and said, how can I serve? I wouldn't be here today, I don't believe, if it hadn't been for that moment. Now, Greg is the founder of so many businesses, I don't even know where to begin, but he has been an entrepreneur since the 90s, well, even before a little bit, weathered the dot-com boom and bust, was back on the battlefield and weathering another recession in 2008 and 9 and thought, maybe we need to go about this different. What if we came together and instead of feeling like we had to compete, what if we came together and served each other? And sure enough, all those businesses survived, including him, and he ended up building a community out of it. And this community came together for me, and it came together again during COVID. And we were all able to help support each other through those hard times. I feel honored and almost a little bit emotional to introduce my friend, my brother from another mother, Greg Woody Greenwood. Welcome to How I Turned the Corner.
Thank you, Kendra. It's a pleasure. It's my honor with your words and generous with them as well.
You've been amazing. So let's talk about your journey. Tell us the backstory. Like, what were you like as a young entrepreneur?
Overzealous, to say the least, aspirational, idealistic, hopeful, and aggressive, at times too aggressive. And it worked for quite a while until it didn't. And that's where the lessons started. Because success, I've learned over time, is not a great educator. It's a great encourager, but failure is a really strong educator, especially when we sometimes don't see the warning signs along the road. So there's a lot to it. That's kind of the beginning, if you will.
Yeah. So what were some of your biggest teachers in failing?
There's so many. Where should I start? I think probably the one that has repeated itself a few times that has gotten in my way until my last company I built and exited was being fully transparent about what was going on in the business. In the first iteration of my IT infrastructure business building, we just caught this wave of networking, connectivity, and anything we touched made the wave bigger and longer, and it was really fun. And then when we had our first hiccup in the late 90s that you alluded to, I started to realize, oh, okay, what got us here isn't going to get us there. And I was forced to look in the mirror around who I was being as a leader. I was really into doing and micromanaging and a little bit too much oversight. And the doing got in my way. And through that aha, I realized in my next business building experience that I was going to back up, create space, provide resource, encouragement, and clarity, and then give people the autonomy to perform.
Yeah.
And between those two lessons, I think I saw something really flourish under people's power versus my own struggle to harness something myself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I think when we start a business, we feel like we have to do it all because it's our baby. But people, when we hire people, they want to do great work too. They just need, as you said, that both the clarity on what is it that's really expected of them. Tell us the goal, tell them the goal, tell them their budget, their resources, the timeline, the general direction you want them to go, course correct a little along the way, but then let them go do it their way. It may not be our way, but their way may be even better, right?
Yeah. And when they get ownership, I mean, what I've found is they actually achieve more than I expected. And they find some efficiencies that can be leveraged across the organization, which is really fun when the team starts to take better practices amongst each other. Then, the old saying, all boats rise.
Right. Yeah. So what was the experience like in terms of what were some of the demons that you fought along the way in terms of the transparency? Like, what were some of the things where you're like, I just don't know if I should be transparent about that? And then you tried it and it worked. Do you have any examples?
Yes. I think more around strategic direction, long-term, where we're talking about partnerships or capital raising or exit strategy. I really held that too close to the vest and at times masqueraded what it really was and used language that was clear but confusing. And what I've learned since then is just tell everyone the truth all the time. They can handle it. Mm-hmm. And they can hold confidentiality if you ask them to and trust them. And I think that's the big difference in spiral method, my post-spiral method life versus my pre-spiral method life, is this container of confidentiality where we build trust, we deepen a relationship, and we elevate performance through full transparency, authenticity, and vulnerability, sharing the truth at its core, even though it's scary.
Right.
I was scared. I lived with fear for a long time around information sharing. And now, like, my story with CTLF and Blackstone, like, if everyone knows, that's all the better, as long as they know what's team only and what can be shared outside that.
Right.
So that's the clarity I've really tried to provide after those lessons.
Mm-hmm. What is it like for you when you sit down as a mentor to someone like me? Like when we sat down together with the group back in 2017, and you were all so generous and called to serve me, even though we didn't know each other at all. What was that experience like for you? Like, give me the insight on what it was like to hear my vulnerable story, see the fear, you've done this with so many people over the years. What goes through your head in those moments?
One word: empathy. My father told me, if there's one thing I give you, well, he's told me so many things, but the one thing I remember around this was put yourself in other people's shoes. And if you can really understand that, then there's connection, there's alliance. And so I think what I was thinking was, my goodness, I know you look fearful and scared and, oh my gosh, I'm about to raise the white flag. And I'd been there, raise the white flag. And I'm like, hey, you're not even close to white flag. You're doing great. Like, let us just help you get a few things in order. And I remember Mike Larkin being there and being a tremendous white knight for you around sales and sales funnel and prospecting. And so it's just that it's going to be okay. Because I've been here and it's tough. Yeah. But it's not the end. Right. Even if it's the end, it's not the end.
It's so true. And so you've founded so many businesses and now are on a new one, which I want to talk about here in a minute. But do you think it's fair to say that as an entrepreneur, you are always, 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 always on the roller coaster? You never get off of it. It never gets to a place where you just feel like you can just cruise. It's going to go up and down always. And it's really how you kind of weather those downs that make the ups possible. How do you feel about that when I say that?
I think it's mostly true. I will say the more that I didn't do and delegated and became more of the being leader versus the doing leader, I did find some coast. And I don't mean coast like, oh, we've made it. I mean, like, okay, I'm in my office. Everyone's doing what they should be doing. And then some. What do I do now? Like, and literally, I remember Andy Work, who was our VP of product and technology at ComCables. I'd come to him, I go, do you need me to do anything? He goes, yes, go ride your bike and think some cool strategies for where we can go next.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And I think that's the only moment where I really felt like, okay, it's not an up or a down, it's just a slow rise. And yes, as soon as I deployed one of those strategies, it got scary again. We started going up. We had a failure. What? Oh no, pull the reins in. And Doug Sparks and I would be looking at the financial projections going, okay, we can put a little bit more towards this to see if it's going to rise or not. And, and it did or it didn't. We decided to or not to. And I live a little bit on that fringe anyway. I like the edge, that little bit of fear, not without caution, but with a little edge that says, hey, we're making a difference here. This is exciting. And you got to have some reason within that and good people around too, to keep those, lows from not being too low and the highs not being too frothy, and realizing that there's not good grounding underneath them. Because sometimes the market pushes us without a lot of our own effort. Just our timing can be good. It can be like a false foundation underneath us. So yeah, I think you're mostly right. It's really cool when you're not. a little bit of coast while there's a little bit of rise.
Yeah, that's so true. One of our fellow CEOs says, the sign of a good CEO is somebody who can go on a lot of vacations and their business thrives.
Yeah, I never got quite there, but close.
Yeah, so it's having that good team in place that has the autonomy and the clarity, knows what they need to do, feels the trust from you. All of those things got you to that place of being able to coast a little bit.
Yes, and I think there is a bit of a secret formula that I worked with in my Vistas group around this, which is alignment, that clarity and alignment. And what we developed in the 2008 timeframe for comm cables was a who are we statement. Like, why do we exist? Where are we going? What's our mission? How are we going to do it? And then who are we going to be while we're doing this business and going in that direction? And what I found is that if the people have clarity around the who, and the who is really a belief system, it's a value set. It's an alignment of an agreement that this is who we're going to be in this business that we're in. When that's clear, if something goes wrong, we come back to that agreement and say, okay, where are we out of alignment? What's missing? Did we sacrifice a belief, a value? Did we get off course to where we're going? Did our goals get misaligned? Did we chase something that was not true to our goals? And so if that's there, I think that's the culture element. And when we're bringing new people into it, that's what we're sharing. The job is clinical. The who part is so essential. Yeah. So when we're adding new team members, I think having a real clarity around those things I just described allows us to add people in a really powerful way. And team just happens because we're aligned before we start.
Right. Yeah, totally. Well, so tell us what you're doing right now. Let's go through your history a little bit, because you sold your business, you had an amazing exit. So what all of us founders want, I think, is that amazing exit. It was a rough patch to get there, but let's start there. What happened when you were able to exit? What'd you do after that then?
Well, you said it was an amazing exit. Well, I'll say this, it had a strong financial component to it. Not magnitudes, but enough, because my wife at the time and I agreed that we wanted to really focus on our marriage and our family and our future versus the business. And both were a little bit in crisis. And we sold 60% of the company to a private equity group out of Boston. And they tucked us into a platform company. It was a very large business. And they were hell-bent on their exit. They had a certain EBITDA they were chasing, a certain multiple they wanted to get. They had a certain buyers already there. And our belief systems, our values did not align, even though they said they did. When it came down to day-to-day actions, it didn't. So in less than a year later, they made a very aggressive move, fired my wife out of their agreement that I could operate the company as long as we were on target and inside budget, which we were. And I just held up my commitment to my relationship over staying with the company that I'd built. And so we left the company very abruptly. It's very difficult. And so they bought us out of the balance of our position in the company within like 3 weeks. And I found myself, I called Leslie Jones, my now partner, and said, I'm not okay. Like, the balance sheet looks great, but my emotional state, my psychological state is not okay. My mental fitness was not well. Mm-hmm. And so with that, I leaned on her. And then you might know the story of bringing a number of people around, sitting in a room in Golden, Colorado, helping me create a closing around that chapter of my life from an emotional standpoint, and put a bow around it and casting it off from the dock and letting it go so that a new future could happen. And so that session with Leslie and a lot of friends became Spiral Method. That was the iteration of how to moderate, facilitate a group in a way where we deepen trust, deepen connection, we build relationships for a lifetime, and through that, team performance elevates. And that's Spiral Method. It's kind of crazy how it all happened. Would have never known it was coming to this.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's great. The Spiral Method is amazing. And now you also have a new business as well, WeWave. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so WeWave is by definition a for-profit because it's very difficult to manage a not-for-profit 501c3, and we're probably headed there. And WeWave it's really a movement. So during the pandemic, we were pulled apart and putting masks on and like avoiding each other in grocery stores and on sidewalks. And it really got to me as a very, people person oriented human being. I struggled with it. And as you know, I love to go mountain biking and hiking, and Bridget and I are out on the trails and we're saying hi to people just because it was exciting to see someone else. And some people were like, why are you talking to me? And we come home and go, wow, people aren't as friendly as they were. How come they don't wave back? We're just trying to say hello and create connection. And so I went out for a mountain bike ride a week or two later, and I came back and I'm like, the same thing happened today. I see these mountain bikers and we're all sharing this common interest, but I can't get engagement. So I'm just waving. Like, it's just easy. Like wave, we wave, like we wave. Let's just wave. And so it became this thing where we're like, well, let's put it out in the ether. And so WeWave is an initiative to spread kindness and connection on life's trail, wherever you are, the sidewalk, hiking, boating, biking, skiing, you name it, just to acknowledge one another through physical acknowledgement, just looking at each other with a smile and a wave.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. That's so great, Greenwood.
Well, Bridget, my wife, has been an amazing supporter. She's a writer. So she's writing these incredible stories about inspiring people that do really great things in life around human connection, whatever their trail in life is. And then Paige, our co-founder, she's running the back office of it all and putting some product together so that we can proliferate this message wherever people go.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. So what can we do for you as a community? How can we now serve you?
Well, I think it's about serving one another once again, but just wave and acknowledge each other. Like, take a minute. Here's the little icon we have now.
Love it.
This was designed on 99 Designs, and here's kind of our little icon. And just spread kindness and connection on life's trail wherever you are, because physiologically there is science behind smiling and grinning and acknowledging one another. That's good. It actually builds your immune system strength as well. Yeah. So I would say spread the wave. This, not the surfing wave, but the kind wave.
Oh, that's great. Was there any final nugget you'd like to leave with our audience other than that beautiful one of waving and creating connection together? Any final words for our fellow entrepreneurs and founders in terms of what they can do for their folks, their people?
Yeah, I think one element that's really served me significantly throughout my career, and I got it from a fellow entrepreneur back in Arkansas before I moved out west in the 80s, was to surround myself with peers, be in community, and be authentic in that community. It started for me in YPO, then Vistage, then CTLF, and now the Fog Group through Spiral Method. I think if you don't have a bunker of people that you're being real with, and you can talk about any challenge that you have in your life, not just business, get one and stick to it and show up, be on time, stay to the end, and be real, because there's magic in depth of connection.
Amen. Well, Greg Greenwood, thank you so much for your time today with us. We can always benefit from more wisdom. We'll reach out again soon and kind of get an update on how everything is going with Spiral Method and with WheatWave, and reconnect with you in a few months and see how you are.
Well, thank you so much, Kendra. It's been a pleasure to spend some time with you, and hopefully it's valuable to everyone that comes along and witnesses it. So thank you for all the great work you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining this exciting episode. We hope this discussion brings you closer to a better, healthier, and more rewarding workplace everyone deserves to be a part of. If you want more content like this, be sure to subscribe to the podcast at turningthecornerllc.com/podcast. Don't forget to share this with your friends in the corporate world. And together, let's make this space a hub of growth and job satisfaction. If everyone loves where they are, they can always give their best without regrets. That's all for now. See you on the next one.